So, Shanti, everyone. Greetings to those of you here live, and also greetings to those of you tuning in later through the YouTube video. If you haven't joined us before, my name is Shailen, and my mother and I are students of the London Centre in the UK. And the purpose behind these chit chats is to give BKs who are regularly studying the Brahma Kumaris Murli the opportunity to discuss things in the Murli, gain clarifications. And myself and my mother have had many years of opportunity to study with great teachers. So we try and pass those understandings and stories on in these sessions. And also other brothers and sisters in this group, they've got experiences and understanding. So everyone's welcome to share those as well. So those of you that are here, would anyone like to get started? Do you have anything you'd like to share or ask?
I have a question, brother. I don't know how this will be looked at, but the ancient sages and the rishis and the munis, people like the great yogis like Yogananda, like Yogi Ramdas and people like those, um, they give a lot of information on how to communicate with God, although they don't know who God is. And these are very, very helpful in us students who want to really connect with God the way we're supposed to connect with God. So is it contrary to our teachings to be guided by these yogis and their teachings?
Well, I think what Baba shares with us, sister, is that we've got to keep the morally as our primary conscience, really. And for me, my interpretation of what Baba is doing is he's not nullifying our heart, which is there in Bhakti, but he's adding the head of his knowledge. So when I've heard many of the original daddies speak over the years, or I've done English interpretations of their experiences. So I've gone into a lot of detail listening to these daddies. And I met many of them as well because Daddy gently used to invite many to London over the years. And my impression was that all of them really started off as like BK devotees. Like knowledge has been a gradual. So for many of them, they had visions of Krishna or Vishnu to start off with. They didn't even know who Shiv Baba was. And so their love for Baba is rooted in these devotional feelings. And so I don't think Baba has ever nullified the feelings. So as you're reading those books, I think we can capture feelings, the hearts. I think Baba wants us to keep the heart that we have in devotion. I don't think he's saying to us, because I can understand how, see, Baba uses this word bhakti in a different way to how it would be used in the Lokik world. So in the Lokik world, bhakti is not a negative. And maybe some of you have even met people with that name. It's quite a popular name, and usually for sisters. They're called bhakti. And the word bhakti, like the word devotion, that's not a negative. It's a positive. But when we hear the Murlis, Baba uses it in contrast to knowledge. And so for BKs, the word bhakti becomes a negative. But I think what you're getting at is actually we shouldn't be seeing bhakti as a negative, because there are many things that Baba wants us to keep from those kinds. But he's adding in the knowledge that he sees that we're missing. So for these deities, I just think they were so devoted to Baba. And Devi Janki used to say that for the deities, they had so much faith and belief in Baba that they just didn't use their intellects other than the way that Baba guided. So she used to say that if Baba said, daughter, 2 + 2 is 5, she would just say, okay, then. Like for her, it was this devotion. That's the foundation. I think for many of us BKs who come later, we come through our head. We come through knowledge. And so if knowledge makes sense, then we begin to have love and we begin to have faith, and it can be a different process. And Sister Jayanti used to talk about this, that the way she used to classify it, I don't know if she still does this, is she saw that phase 1 were these daddies and dadas who came just by seeing Baba. And then she was part of this phase 2, like these current DBs who they came in the 50s and the 60s. And they came after having understood the knowledge. So they were listening, taking courses, coming that way, and then also seeing the daddy's lifestyle and then choosing. But it was more intellect based. And then she used to make Daddy Genki chuckle because she used to tell Daddy that after they built Global Corporation House, more people began coming, because if you got a building and you got a bigger gathering, some people, they come seeing that. They don't come seeing Baba initially or even understanding knowledge. And then particularly when Daddy was in town, then you'd get more and more important people coming. So you can see that Baba used to say a lot in the Murlis, go and serve the VIPs, because some people seeing a VIP coming, then they begin coming. And Sister Jayanti used to say that nowadays, this is back in the 90s or early 2000s, people came to Baba's Center in London, seeing the quality of the cars parked outside. So if you had your Mercedes and you had your Rolls Royces and your Bentleys, people thought this must be a place worth going to, important people. So that used to make Daddy laugh, because it would never have occurred to them that you would come that way to Baba. And it's so different. So I think what we got is different types of Brahmins, and probably what Baba is saying is that, and I've shared with you that story before, that I was in Madhaban and Daddy Prakashmani had told all of us young brothers that we were not allowed to read any books by any of these gurus, because I knew this brother, he was a very good yogi, but he had decided to leave Madhaban. And I don't think he left Baba, but he just felt Madhaban was too busy. And he just wanted to sit on his own and practice the point form. And at that time, this was 22, 23 years ago, something like that. And Surya Bhai was reading a lot of these types of books, particularly Swami Vivekananda's life. So then in his talks, he was sharing with others, so many Madhavan Nivasis, they were reading these types of books. And then, of course, if Daddy sees someone leaving Madhavan, because the sannyasis teach you this, they teach you to leave the gathering, leave your responsibilities, focus on your meditation. So she saw that as not knowledge. And this is the danger, that you could mix things up. And so she was just very strict. She said, don't read. So I think if you were asking Devi Prakashmani, she would tell you no. Lynette, don't read. just let's read the Murlis. I think my view on it would be that, you see, I know where you're coming from. And as long as we're all keeping the Murli as our benchmark, and as we're reading these books, we're filtering out the bits that are against the Murli. So I would recommend to everyone, you've got to hear the Murli every day. And then ideally, you need to hear it connected with the center, because then the center teachers that can help you decode the Murli, interpret the Murli accurately. I also record something every day, which many people hear, and that's the aim behind that, is let's really understand the Murlis really deeply. So we're going to need that. And then once we got a solid understanding, I would say 10 years of hearing the Murlis, that gives us a really solid grounding. Then I feel there's much less possibility of being, things being misinterpreted as we read other things. And so then, well, I think what you're saying is really what they help us with, is that how to love God, really, and how to connect God. So in recent times, I think I've always loved it, but I've benefited a lot over the years since I've been able to speak Hindi. I'm not a native Hindi speaker, but very gently encouraged it. And over the years, I've picked it up. And what it does is it just enables you to understand other songs and also other songs. And of course, we hear in the Murlis as well songs that are from Hindi films of the 1930s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. Sometimes in Madhaban as well, they do play some other songs. And I, in recent years, have become more knowledgeable about Sufism, and there's a type of song called the ghazal, which is very popular around, comes really from northern India and Pakistan. And many of those songs, they're linked in with the poet Saint Rumi, who's become very popular in the West. And myself and Ranjan, there's quite a lot of scholarship about Rumi at Oxford University. So myself and Ranjan, we have attended a couple of programs. And the good thing about Sufism and Islam, really more generally, is at least they focus up above a lot more. Now, Rumi writes this great poetry which really teaches us a lot about loving God and being, not just loving God, but being in love with God. And when I hear his poetry, I'm also inspired, and a lot of his types of teachings, they're put into these ghazal songs as well. So I also benefit from that. But then I can also appreciate what Baba's teaching, because when I hear some of the words, a lot of it is around, I'm so much in love with you that I annihilate myself into you. And you can understand why we have so many Murlis, where Baba talks about the soul and the supreme soul and how the two are distinct, because so much of Bhakti has been about how to love God. But then the distinction is lost, because the idea is you're so guided by your heart that you feel like you don't exist anymore and you're just going to merge. And then you've got the theories of creation. And so even if people believe in the soul, they will generally say the soul was created by God or emerged from the great light. And then one day will merge back into the great light. So I think Baba is very reticent about using this language, because he wants to draw this clear distinction. So as we are appreciating the feelings, the hearts that these devotees are communicating, we then also have to engage our head, and we have to absorb what Baba's telling us, that actually the soul can never be totally merged into God, but it is feeling. And so he uses this term, be merged in love, but you can't be merged in God. So you're merged in your love for God, but your understanding always the distinction. The additional thing that Baba, I think, is totally unique, I think, from anything in Bhakti, is that the soul is an actor with its own eternal role. And so how he gets us to think about the soul is also different. There will be many traditions that talk of the soul as light and maybe even as eternal, but that the soul is an actor with a role, and that role is vital for this drama to continue, so the soul can never be annihilated. In the Bhog message that Sister Mahimi brought back on Thursday, brother was also pointing that out. I think one brother, maybe there in America, he's left the body, so there's like his Bhog offering. And so brother was also just emphasizing this point that the drama never stops. Like even a soul leaving the body, it's not an end of anything. That soul is not stopped. The drama hasn't stopped. And you find this after a bereavement, don't you? Because if you've had a very big bereavement, for you, it's like everything stops. You're in this sort of shock. And for you, life has changed. But for everyone else, the drama just continues and nothing ever stops. So that is giving us this understanding that, yes, you've got to remember Baba with your heart, but you've also got to consider yourself to be a soul and then remember Baba. And so you're not just relying on the feelings, but you're doing it with this. And then the third thing he adds in is you've got to remember Baba with your aim and objective. So you've got to remember Baba with the understanding that you're destroying your sins, you're removing the alloy, and you're becoming an angel and a deity. So again, that purpose is not there in Bhakti. They might have the purpose of eternal liberation. They might have the purpose of wanting to go and serve God. They might have other such purposes. But what Baba is very specific about is, in order to be categorized as Raj Yoga, we have to have that level of love in our heart, guided by all these points about the soul and the distinction with the Supreme Soul. We have to spin the discus of self-realization at the same time and know our role. And then connected with that is the aim and objective. So Baba says you're going to have to combine the heart and the head and then remember that. And when you do that, that's called Raj Yoga. And that has a different attainment to the attainment that you gained in Bhakti. Do you want to come back?
You explained it in a really, really beneficial way. Very, very clear. Because when I read these books or I listen to these yogis, I know I take information that it's helpful, but I also know they don't know who God is. So I relate it to God in the way that He's teaching us, and just to gain that insight from them, how to go about having that how should I put it, the clarity of being able to connect with God. The teaching, the way they do it, it's very helpful for me to be able to take the information that they have, although they don't know who God is, and then bring Baba's knowledge into it, and then you come up with your own conclusion of communicating with God in the proper way. So the way you explained it, it's very, very, it's beautiful and very, very helpful. Thank you.
I think that's correct, the way you put it there, sister. And then together with how to love God, we also have to learn from the virtues of these devotees. So last week, Baba was remembering Mahatma Gandhi, and in one Murli, Baba shares that he was a follower of Gandhi prior to Chit Baba's knowledge. And those of you that have seen the movie, you'll know that one of Gandhi's protests was that you have to spin your own cotton and make your own clothes. And this is why, one of the reasons why the spinning wheel is on the flag of India. And Brahmaveda shares in that Murli that he did that for 1 year. He made his own clothes and spun. So, we look at Gandhi's influence of non-violence, political movements, and how it influenced Dr. Martin Luther King in America, Nelson Mandela in South Africa. And to be able to do that at the end of the Iron Age is a really big achievement. And to have these principles of non-violence and peace. So we've got to learn that, could we do that? And to have that level of tolerance. And there's an interview that Dr. King did on TV in the 1960s. And he was talking about how he felt that even though Gandhi wasn't a Christian, he embodied the qualities of Christ more than anyone else in history. And because Dr. King was a reverend, was a Christian. So that was, I think, a powerful statement. And Devi Janki used to talk about Christ and Jesus's qualities, and particularly around tolerance and forgiveness. And she used to say that you look at the Christian religion and its foundation is tolerance and forgiveness. And could any of us even now, even with Baba's help, tolerate a crucifixion like that? Had nails put into his hand and into his ankles. This was such severe pain. And we see this quality to be able to go through that and then pray for the forgiveness of those doing that and not hold anything in your heart towards them. I think sometimes if someone even insults us, we want revenge. And you can see that how these religious fathers have this great capacity. And that is saying to us, you're now establishing a religion with Shabbat. Do you have these qualities? Because particularly with Jesus Christ, but there are other examples too, that you see how you've got to have a long-term vision. You might have short-term defeats. And this came up in one of the blessings in the last week too, that when you tolerate things, you might have to bow down and accept defeat in the short term. But look in the long term, look at the size of his religion, the biggest religion in the world. So in the long run, it was successful. But probably for about 300 years, Christians were crucified and persecuted. Many of those early Christians, not just Jesus Christ, many of these early Christians, they went through a lot. And then for many centuries, they were like the first people going to a country to set up a church or something. They had to tolerate nonsense. So then it's saying, do you have these qualities? And then with Gandhi, they were establishing a kingdom. a new kingdom, getting their self-sovereignty back from the British Empire. And so Buddha says, I come to establish a religion and a kingdom. And the people that helped Christ, no doubt, as they took rebirth, they would have attained high statuses within that religion. Maybe some of them became like popes and archbishops and other such figures. And then the people who helped Gandhi, initially, they would have become part of that original government or gained some other benefits. Or maybe some they sacrificed, they didn't gain the position in that life, but they would have taken rebirth, and then subsequently they would have become leaders and gained political power because they created the count of gaining that kingdom. And then those that helped to establish a religion, they gained that status as well. So Buddha says to us, keep the qualities of these devotees in front of you. You are now establishing a religion with Buddha. You are now establishing a kingdom with Buddha. What's the big deal if you've got to tolerate a little bit? And Buddha says that look at what they did, and then Brahmins can't even tolerate a little insult. Like Buddha has no sympathy for us at these things because he feels the devotees have better capacity for many things. Many devotees, if you look at our Brahmins, especially nowadays, we don't really live that simply. But many devotees have much more simplicity and much more renunciation than we do. And so Buddha is saying, well, what's the big deal if you got to do it? And he was saying that how the deities developed both Baba and Drama, made the deities have the power to adjust. At the beginning, they were living like princes and princesses. Then they didn't have any money in the 50s and the 60s, so they established the centers with nothing. And they didn't even have something to eat for several days sometimes. And so they developed all of the qualities to be able to do that. So they're saying, we don't know what's around the corner. Maybe it can, like we've seen in so many places, natural calamities come quickly, suddenly. We saw with Ukraine, an invasion happened overnight. They lost and they had to become refugees. We don't know what's going to come our way. So they're saying we're going to have the power to adjust. You're going to have to be okay no matter what. So Baba was saying to them on Sunday, because they had to sleep on the floor in Nadadal, Baba makes the mood light. So he says, well, you double foreigners come with a lot of luggage. You could sleep in one suitcase and use that as your bed. You could use your hand luggage as your pillow. And Baba says, look, you know, the devotees do these things. They go to religious pilgrimages. They walk there. You know, they don't have cars and they don't have money. Things they say for many centuries. In fact, you were not meant to go on a pilgrimage, even by horseback. Like, for example, if someone was going from Rwanda to see the Pope in Rome, they would walk to Rome. Some would even walk to Jerusalem. You know, it's like it take them like 1 year to walk there. Some Muslim pilgrims, they would walk from Spain or even from India to Mecca. You didn't do these things easily. It wasn't meant to be easy. And we got into a comfortable lifestyle now. And so I've been talking recently about this concept of what are we normalizing? So one of these things can be comforts, become too normal for us. So I think, sisters, one thing we're learning how they love God, but also Baba, I think, wants us to learn their qualities and inculcate those qualities and learn from their greatness, because he was saying to us a few days ago that there's two types of great souls. There's the great souls of devotion, and then there's the deities. And the deities are great because they're pure in their soul and body. So they are great souls for that reason. But these devotees, they are great souls. They inculcate purity, renunciation. This is why Gandhi is called a Mahatma, a great soul. He did it while living within his family. He had a wife and children. He inculcated celibacy and renunciation and devotion, and he had so much tolerance. So, can we not do this as well with Baba's help? So, I think you're right. It's an interesting topic, Batman. Thanks for starting us off with that. But anyone, thank you. Go on, yeah, come back.
No, that is really well put, because we could learn a lot from these yogis. Their love, their pure love for God, and we could learn a lot from that to be able to love God in that way, and forget everything else. So it's great teaching today, great discussion today. Another thing is, brother, I realize that a lot of people now, although we are not all that aware of it, they're looking for God. A lot of souls are now looking for God. I had an experience where, the Jehovah's Witnesses will come home door to door. About 2 weeks ago, I had this elderly female and a younger male come to tell me about, the Bible and all that. So, and then when they started to say, we just came to give you to give you some word about God. So then I started telling them, do we know who God is? And they couldn't say. And I started explaining who God is, who Jesus Christ is, the Jesus and the Christ soul and all that. The elder female, she was setting her way. She didn't really, I don't think she understood much what I was saying, but the younger guy, he was so intrigued of what the discussion that I was having, because I think I started telling them who God is. So the whole idea for them to come to teach me about God, it was in the background. And this younger guy, the younger person was saying, spirituality is something I really love. Can I come back another day to talk to you? So
Good.
even in religion, there are people who still search for God because they understand that something is missing. So it's a lot of that like ascension that we call it. A lot of that is happening now, which Baba said will happen anyhow. Shanti.
Yes, and why I like to know about different religions and different things is because when we meet different people, if we've got knowledge about their religions, we can communicate a bit more easily with them. And Baba tells us the knowledge of the tree of religions. So most souls are not BK souls, and it's not possible for them to be that. That's what the tree means. So, for example, these souls that you've met, they might belong to the Christian branch. So they're never going to leave that branch. But all souls have to receive something from Baba now. So that conversation with you and also the vibrations, that might be their sustenance and their message. So what Baba has been saying more and more in recent years is the revelation of the Father will happen through the brands. And so it's the son shows the father, the daughter shows the mother type of concept. Now, some of that will, like you just had that opportunity in the drama to share something verbally. And most of the time, we don't get that chance. When we get it, we take it. And it's a conversation builder. So that sounds really great. And then a lot of the time, it's going to be through virtues. So people are noticing our behavior. And even if they don't know, so Sister Jayanti used to say that even if they don't know really what BK is or anything like that, most people get to know that you are a meditator. That bit sort of stays in their mind, that you do meditation. So they're looking at you. And if they see that peace, or they see how you're handling things, then they begin to think, must be doing something. And I had my performance review with my manager a couple of months ago. And he himself is a Christian, and he's an active member of his church. So he's a spiritual person anyway. But I mean, I don't talk to him about philosophies, but I know that he's spiritual and he has a belief in God. But he was just talking to me generally about my performance. And he said, you're like an ocean of calm within the department. And we have a team of secretaries and administrators that looks after all of the teachers in our department. And one of them that particularly supports my course, I was having a meeting with her online through Zoom. And then she was telling me afterwards that she stopped that call, and then the other administrators in the office, they said, because she's on her headphones, so no one else can hear who she's talking. And they said, oh, were you talking to Shailen just then? And she said, yes. But, oh, we could tell because you suddenly became so calm. And I realized through this feedback that I'm having an impact without doing it. And so I mean, I don't need to think about that. But what I know is that over the years, through Buddha's training, I don't think that much. And over the years, like when I first started, I was 15, 16 years old. I couldn't concentrate at all. So I remember my very early days of trying to make effort, trying to have yoga. I abandoned trying to have yoga because I couldn't concentrate. I was just having so many thoughts, like a flooding of thoughts. So I just began reading the Murli during yoga time, during Amrit Bela, just reading Murlis, because I thought that's a better use of my time rather than just sitting there. And because you don't have the strength to control the mind. You have to develop that strength over time. And then as the years have gone by, I mean, I really can testify to all of you that this method that Buddha gives us, it really does work. So, I'm speaking from experience and I can testify to that. So I would say nowadays, I really don't think that much. And the mind, it's not like it's going through big ranges of feelings and thoughts and things. It's sort of just like that. So I realize, because I interview people in my research, I then listen back to myself as I'm interviewing when I have to type up the interviews. And it was only as I was hearing these recordings, because you don't usually listen to yourself speaking, I realized how slowly I speak. And I thought to myself, I do speak too slowly. But then as I was thinking about that, so for example, second language students, they love me, because when your English is not your native language, if someone speaks slowly, you're so grateful. So I'm very good with a lot of our students from other countries who are studying in English as a second language, because they like me speaking slowly. But I thought, I'm speaking too slowly. And then as I reflected on that, I realized I'm speaking the same speed as I think. So as I'm speaking, I've thought, and then I'm speaking like I'm just thinking and speaking. It's not like I'm thinking really fast on the inside, then I'm presenting a few words. Or some people, they do speak as quickly as they think, don't they? And it's just like a flood of words as well. But I am actually speaking the same speed as what's going on inside of my head. So this is how I think. And I've watched Bapdada speak the Murli for so many years, right? So I've read every Murli hundreds and hundreds of times, but I've also listened to the audio of the Murlis directly in Hindi so many times, and also with the translation early days. But when I was a early teenager, 11, 12, 13, that sort of 14 years of age, I used to struggle to sleep. So I'd gone to Madhuban in 1992, and I came back with a set of cassettes of Bapdada's Murli, and I didn't speak Hindi in those days. But I think this helped me to learn Hindi as well. But, so it was the recordings of Baba's Murlis with Sister Shilu translating in English. And I used to put that on and sleep to that. So sometimes I couldn't sleep, and so I was hearing the way that Baba speaks. He used to speak very slowly, and even I would say as the years went on, Baba sped up. And I think that might have been because Daddy was getting older, so he was delivering the Murli quicker so he could leave. I think it was too much pressure on Daddy's body if he stayed too long. So I noticed he spoke the Murli quicker. But the Murlis in the 1980s, this got really slow. And if you study the way Baba speaks the Murlis in the videos, he does it at a speed that I think he wants us to think at. So it's very slow, he's very precise with every word. There are no extra words. It's very precise. The way the Sakar Murlis are spoken are different. And you've got a bit of a human element of Brahmababa there. But now both of them he became an angel and became equal to Shiv Baba. They're both very precise. The Avyat Murlis are different. And if you look at the way Baba speaks, it's very sweet, and very soft, very gentle, very thoughtful, and very precise. And he speaks with this like the waves of the ocean, just washing over everything. So you've got the ocean of silence combined with the ocean of knowledge, combined with the ocean of love. So it's like these waves, and he never loses his silence, even though he comes into sound. And so as I was reflecting on myself, I've used these videos as a role model, how I should be speaking. Because if you watch, like you were asking earlier about Lokik gurus, so if you watch a Lokik guru give a speech, or like a preacher, or an imam, or something like that, there's a Bhakti style that is more like to convince you and to stimulate you. And it's like, hallelujah. And do you understand? The guru will talk down because they're not trying to uplift, right? They're not trying to make the worshippers not be worshippers anymore. They're trying to make the worshippers worship more. And so their attitude would be, I'm in between you and God. And so I am like your gateway. So the way a guru speaks is more this sort of tone. And they are trying to impress you with their knowledge. And there's like this feeling and this tone of impressing and convincing, and politicians also speak in that way. But if you study how Baba speaks, even though he's the almighty authority, he doesn't speak with that. He speaks with this tone of calm, peace, and upliftment. You can also become like me. So I realized that this is so. What my manager was saying to me is, of course, we've got so many things happening, and I've also initiated so many things and so much development, and we have problems all the time that come. But whereas before there would be a panic, now they just feel I'll just calmly deal with it. And I realized this is Baba's influence on me. So all these years watching Baba, having him as a role model, it's absorbed. And then others, they feel that. So they then think there must be something in the meditation. There must be something happening. There must be something working. So I think we got to serve many souls that way through the virtue, everyone through the virtues. And then as we develop our yoga power, we have to serve everyone through the mind. And as I'm revisiting a lot of these Murlis, the London Centre puts up video Murlis once or twice a week, usually on a Saturday. And they did it also on a Monday this week. And so as I'm repeating these Murlis from the 1990s and 2000s, I'm realizing that Baba is being very clear that there's a new type of Brahmin waiting to be born for when Brahmins have enough yoga power to give them inspiration. So what Baba is conveying, you look at the type of Brahmin that Brahma Baba created, and it was this daddy level. And so he's saying that they came through the vibrations of the mind. They didn't come through words. And you end up creating a type of Brahmin that catches Baba through their mind as well. And he's saying in between, there's been many Brahmins who've come through words. But he's saying that there are these Brahmins who are waiting to be born, but they will only be born as the Brahmins develop this level of yoga power that Brahma Baba had. So they're waiting to have an experience of your angelic form, of your deity form, of Shad Baba. But because our yoga is not there yet, they're not having it. And they're not then taking birth. But I am now convinced, because I feel there's been a narrative in the Brahmin family of like deterioration, that the Brahmins who came at the beginning, they were better Brahmins. And then we had Brahmins that were slightly less than that. Then we're getting Brahmins that are slightly less than that. And I feel there's a lack of self-esteem also within Brahmins. So they're always thinking that a previous generation is better than that. And I don't buy this. I feel that actually there are Brahmins to come who are even better. And I firmly believe the current Brahmins can be just as good as anyone that has gone before. I don't think we should have low self-esteem. And I read these Murlis. I am not gaining from Baba that he thinks that everyone is less. I don't get that feeling at all from the Murlis. So why should we see ourselves as less? And I think there are Brahmins that are going to take birth to Baba in the next number of years that are going to surprise us all. They're going to bring something special. We got these examples, haven't we? Like Baba talks about Dada Jagdish, for example. He was the first, and Dada Brij Mohan's family, they were the first students in Delhi. And what happened was, after Dada Jagdish came, suddenly service shifted because they got someone who was intellectual, who had, the Devotees, they were not native Hindi speakers either, but he was educated in Hindi. And so they could change their style of what they wrote and how they presented and so on. So what you got is a whole shift that happened with those Brahmins who came around in the 50s. And then our current Devotees of the 1960s, they're interesting as well. All of them are different in different ways. Like Sister Mohini, she's got a different type of speciality. Sister Jayanti, a different type. And you can see that for these foreign countries, we did need these type, that you needed this type of person. And Sister Vivanti, she was sharing yesterday at the London Centre that the brother from Zambia, he took knowledge with her and she was in Mumbai. And he wanted to give donations for Baba's literature and things. And the actual literature only cost 8 rupees, but he only had 100 rupees. So he said, okay, keep the 100 rupees. You can. She said, no, we're not beggars. We're not going to take your extra 93 rupees. Come back when you've got 8 rupees. So she was like, really, she's like direct and straightforward. And he liked that. So then later on, Betty Prakashman, she was the leader of the centers at that time in Mumbai. And he met her. And he said, I would like to take this sister to Africa to begin centers then, because she's tough. And in Africa, you need tough people and you need straightforward people. And so that's how that happened. And Dr. Nirmala, she came to knowledge because Dada Ramesh, his sister, so Dada Ramesh's family, him and his wife, Usha Devi, and his sister was Dr. Anila. So his sister was a doctor. So that entire family, they came to Baba, I think, 1961. So they were the first young couple to come to Baba at the Mumbai Center. And Dr. Anila was a doctor, and Dr. Nirmala, she qualified, and they were colleagues at the same hospital. And Mama was staying in Mumbai, and she was giving lectures every Sunday at 2 p.m. at the center. So Dr. Anila took Dr. Nirmala to listen to Mama's lecture. And then afterwards she met Mama, and Mama said, well, did you like what you were hearing? Would you like to do the course? And that's how Dr. Nirmala got the knowledge in about 1962, I think. And then, or maybe slightly after that. And then she had met Brahma Baba. And she said to Brahma Baba that she wants to just be a BK sister, or just do this. And her father was going to sponsor her own doctor's surgery then. And Brahma Baba actually said to her, no, he doesn't want her to be a full-time BK. He wants her to practice. So for 5 years, she ran her doctor's surgery in Mumbai before she became a full-time doctor. And then that doctor's surgery, they turned it into a center. So her father's donation also got turned into a center. And then she's got many years of practicing as a doctor before she then went to Australia and then set up other centers. So I think you got those sisters with different experiences and a bit of education that the daddies didn't have. And then they've become like our daddies now, haven't they? So they were like the right instruments at that time. Then you've got these brothers and sisters who were the first ones in their countries. They're like local people of their countries. So they've been very important. So I'm very, very convinced as I'm re-hearing Buddha's models of the 90s and the 2000s, that Buddha is saying that there are Brahmins to be born, but they're waiting for your power of the mind to grow. And just as the Devotees took birth through Brahmadatta's power of the mind, there are souls that no matter how many programs we do, they're not coming. They're not becoming deacons. They're waiting to experience your angelic form. They're waiting to experience your deity form. But our yoga's not alpha energy. And so I am not of the view that Brahmins are degrading over time. I'm not of the view that you've got the better Brahmins of the 1930s and then slightly less Brahmins of the 1950s and 60s and slightly less. I don't think that is saying that. I think that all Brahmins can become equal to Baba, and I think that's what Baba is saying. And in my soul, I am very convinced that there are Brahmins that are still going to be born who are going to be of the level of our daily. And they are going to bring great newness into Buddha's task. But Buddha is saying, you children, you have to become the embodiments. You have to develop this because through your vibrations, something is going to shift and open up for them. And then they can take it forward. So we've got to serve the tree. Shanti Ambika Ben, great that you're here. I'll hand over to you in a few minutes. I wonder if anyone else wants to ask anything or share anything.
So I think you say in that I know got in this last sentences there that you're convinced that there are more Brahmins, new Brahmins to come, and they'll perform wonders. Are you referring to possibly the advanced party souls or just new, completely new?
Yeah, I feel that there are souls that haven't become Brahmins yet. And I think, I've been talking on this theme of what are we normalizing? And it becomes this mindset. So I feel one of the things that has become normalized is a collective low self-esteem within the Brahmin families. That those that have gone before are always better. And I'm challenging. I think that as I read the Murlis, I don't think Baba says it. And I think it's entirely possible that Brahmins to come can be just as great as anyone that's gone before. And what I'm hearing was a video Murli broadcast by the London Centre last week from 1997. And in that, Baba was saying, up until now, you've only really been serving through your words. But as you move forward, what was in the beginning will happen again. And you will serve much more through the mind. This is why you've got your drills now. You've got to develop this practice over a long period of time. And just as these daddies came through the service of Heaven, and he was saying, look at the level of the souls that emerged through the service of the mind. They became the foundation for so much. So he's saying that this is going to happen again, that the quality of the soul, level of the souls that emerge, it's going to actually increase in quality. And these will be souls that won't take decades to become, because he seems to be connecting this with the way they're born. Because they're born through the service of the mind, it's quicker. And I heard him say this to the double foreigners, that because they were born through angelic thought, that many double foreigners very quickly became teachers. Whereas the Brahmins in India, they had a lot of training before they became teachers and started somewhere. The double foreigners in the 1970s and 1980s sort of like took knowledge, and then like the next week they're giving the course. There's a lot like that. So I think there's some subtle connection between how someone becomes a BK and then sometimes how quickly they can adopt certain things. And Baba's saying the collective, as you develop this great yoga energy and your own self-realization, it releases an energy for other souls to more quickly access their own angelic and their own deity. When I was in New York, I was having a chit chat with Sister Anjani, who lives there in Harmony House. She was sharing with me her journey to become a BK. And what was unusual about her journey that I think she hadn't thought about before, I said it to her, is I've not heard that many Brahmins tell me that I became a BK because of yoga experience. So she has sat through a yoga commentary, and that convinced to become a BK. So she then just became the center. And then gradually the knowledge things became clearer. And that is quite unusual. And for her, she just sort of ended up in the center. It's doing that. And in coming through yoga, I think is a different way of being born. So that's something I'm churning on at the moment. And when Daddy had come to our place, he said that Baba told her that the silence from this place will spread throughout the UK and into the world. So this type of service is something that I feel is very much my future. So I think about it a lot, that can I develop this yoga power so that souls suddenly become around me, and then also, of course, supporting souls around the world. Do you want to come back?
Yeah, my God. So, that makes sense. And Baba's often also said, who come last can go fast. He never discriminated that where you will be. So it depends on your effort. And as you're saying, if you are taught born, it means that not just in a center, but something pulls you into a center. It had to have been a Brahmin, as deep sanskars are there. So I would want to agree with that. I would want to agree with that. But I just always felt that there would be souls here. I may have taken a few books, and those are the ones that you're probably talking about coming. But I often wonder about says souls will come until the end. When that soul's what he said is never empty. And my thought was always a few years ago is that all souls may have come down. And that's not necessarily so.
Yeah. My interpretation of the Murli is they keep coming down right until Baba takes up. So there's souls coming down from the soul world. And I was thinking about them yesterday because I was watching a couple of lectures. And if we look at the advances in the world over the last 200 years, I mean, it's just remarkable. It's not us, is it? It's not us. We didn't do it. It's their souls. They're bringing a lot of advancement. And what Baba says is they're creating things for the golden age. So there's a lot more that's going to happen that these new souls are contributing to. Then the second category of souls is the one that you've mentioned, the advanced party souls. And do you recall when we were rereading the Kashmir's old messages that I hadn't noted before that Baba was saying how much she's serving scientists. It kept coming up in messages. And so with these advanced party souls, it seems to be like they've got a permanent presence in the subtle region, and the soul has gone into another role physically down here. So there's like an angelic, their angelic self is decoupled from their physical, and that angelic self continues to work independent of the physical role they're playing down here. But then they might also themselves be scientists or something else in the world, and they might be playing some role. So I do agree with you, those souls will also reach, and they will also support others' tasks. Once, when I was young, I was talking with Sudesh Giri about this. I would have been about 17 or something like that. And she was saying that there are 3 types of advanced party. She said that one are those like Mama and the daddies, they go off and play those types of roles. And you might recall, we also read those Murlis where Baba was talking about the palaces of the womb and how they will become the first they'll give birth to the first generation of the deities, and Sri Krishna in particular. And then you've got those that become scientists, you were saying, and they become these important people in the world as well. And then she was saying the 3rd type of advanced party are those who become Brahmins again. And they then advance Buddha's task as well in that way. But that was her take on that. But I am now more convinced also that there are others talking about souls who haven't yet become Brahmins at all. And what he was conveying in that Murli was that those daddies emerge just from one Baptada. So he's saying, imagine when it's a collective Brahmin family, all with that level of energy. So he's talking about, I think, quite a large volume that will become Brahmins quite quickly. Because one Baptada, he was saying, had that much impact, but a collective impact, like a team of angels, suddenly spreading a collective vibration, and multiple souls having visions at a multiple time that will spread away. And then for such souls, they're not going to need convincing. Like those daddies didn't need convincing. They just saw Sri Krishna. They knew this is God. And so similarly, if someone has an experience, they're not going to need convincing. But what he's saying is once you do words, then it's a debate. Then it's many things to unlearn, then learn, and it takes time. But I see this as our future phase as Brahmins. Anyway, today we've got a new scene in the drama because Ranjan Dan is training us today. So Ambika Ben's going to take us through Murli. So Ambika Ben, shall I hand over to you?
So Om Shanti, everyone. So it's a Murli I took up only this morning at random. I didn't really go through it fully as well. So we will be going through it together. So it's a Abhyat Murli of December 12th, 1998. And the theme of the Murli is renounce anything wasteful and negative and become a perfect double light angel like Father Brahma. And also in this Murli, Baba was speaking about the categories of the souls as well, in the different division. So today, Bab Dada is seeing his Brahmin souls everywhere. To be a Brahmin means to be one born through the mouth of Brahma. Bab Dada is very happy to see the fortune of every Brahmin child. As soon as a Brahmin child takes birth, the tilak of awareness is applied on the forehead of each one through Father Brahma. God himself makes you into one who has the tilak. So that's the tilak of awareness. As well as this, he enables each Brahmin soul to adopt a crown of light through the great mantra of purity. So he adopts a crown of light through the great mantra of purity. Together with this, he also makes each of you Brahmin souls into a world benefactor and enables you to wear the crown of responsibility. So world benefactor and the crown of responsibility. So God himself sits you on his heart throne and makes you wear a double crown. As soon as you take birth, you become one who has a tilak, a crown and a throne. No other soul throughout the whole cycle could have such great fortune. Do we feel that? So, are you Brahmins aware of your elevated fortune? Are you aware that as soon as you take birth, you become so fortunate? People of the world have symbolized you Brahmins in the form of Krishna. This was a new line for me. So people of the world have symbolized you Brahmins in the form of Krishna. However, that tilak, crown, and throne are the symbols of being a Raj Kumara, a prince of that world, golden age. However, he receives, that is Krishna, receives none of these in his childhood, whereas you Brahmins receive all three. It is only you Brahmins who have the fortune to receive these three attainments from the Supreme Father. So, Bab Dada was seeing how great the star of fortune sparkling on each one's forehead is. Baba is asking, can you too see your star of fortune sparkling on yourself? Can you see it sparkling? Or is it that sometimes your star sparkles very well, but at other times, the sparkle of that star reduces? So it's a self-checking. This star of fortune is a unique star. So whenever Bab Dada sees you and meets, he is pleased to see the star on each one's forehead sparkling. Why does the sparkle of the sparkling star reduce? All of you know the reason for this very well. When Bab Dada looks at the chart of you children, what does Bab Dada do? He smiles. When any of you are asked what you want to become or what you want to become or what your aim is, the majority of you reply, I want to become number one. I want to become part of the Sun dynasty. None of you want to become the Moon dynasty, King Rama and Sita or Sita. However, since you aim to become number one Sun dynasty, then according to your aim, you have to reveal the qualifications necessary for that aim. So the qualification has to match the aim. You children aim to become part of the Sun dynasty. You aim to be constantly victorious. Baba says to be constantly victorious is the sign of a number one Sun dynasty soul. The degree of a sun never increases or decreases. So there's no wavering, no up and down. So the degree of the sun never increases or decreases. The sun also rises and sets, but its degree never reduces like those of the Moon dynasty. So the sun remains full 16, while the Moon dynasty goes to 14. It's a reduction. The sun does rise and set, but its degree never reduced like that of the Moon dynasty. So to be constant and steady, always victorious, is a sign of a Sun dynasty. So there's no set of battle within the self. Those of the Moon dynasty are called warriors. In a warrior life, there is sometimes victory and sometimes defeat. Sometimes they are embodiments. Sometimes they are embodiments of success, and at other times, they are embodiments of laboring. To battle means to labor. The degrees of those who are part of the Moon dynasty are not constant. This is why you must make your qualifications equal to your aim. Keeping this aim in front of us. You have kept your aim of becoming equal to the Father. When each of you is asked what you want to become, you say equal to the Father. So Baba is constantly the embodiment of easy victory. It's failure, no labor. If you don't have a constant and steady stage, how will you become number one? Or will you go amongst those who are number-wise? Baba sometimes often asks us when it's time to go, are we going with him? Or are we following number-wise? So will you go amongst those who are number-wise? One is to claim number one, and the other is to go amongst those who are number-wise. Therefore, ask yourself, am I number one, or am I one in the list of those who are number-wise? To be number one means to follow Father Brahma. Baba is showing you an easy method. And the method is by following the Father. It takes less effort. So we're not reinventing the wheel. We have Baba as the examples with Baba also easy. Just follow. The foot, that is the footsteps of Brahma, is a sign of the footstep of every task. So it is easy to place your foot in his footsteps. You don't have to find a new path. There's one path that Brahma Baba followed. You simply have to place your foot in his footsteps. Whatever task you carry out, whether it is of creating thoughts in your mind, speaking any words, or interacting with others. Before carrying out that task, you should consider whether that act you are about to perform is equal to that of Father Brahma's act. So there's a constant check-in. What was Father Brahma's thought? Is your thoughts according to his thoughts? In every word you speak, is every word you speak equal to that spoken by Brahma? If it is not, then you mustn't do it. If it is not, then you mustn't think it in that way, nor speak or do anything else in that way. The steps of you children should not be different from the steps of Father Brahma. Otherwise, how will you fulfill your aim and reach your destination of becoming equal to the Father? And that is the Shiv Baba. When you constantly follow Brahma at every step, then you will firstly experience yourself to be an easy effort maker. And secondly, experience the destination of perfection to be close. To become like Father Brahma means to reach your destination of perfection. So, Father Brahma in the subtle region is invoking all of you to become perfect, subtle angels. Baba is asking, can you not hear the song of invocation? The sweet sound of the song that Father Brahma sings? And the song that he sings, he says, come child, sweet children, come quickly. Can you not hear this melody and these words? Listen to Brahma Baba's voice. Catch it. Brahma Baba says that you children are thinking about the year 1999 a great deal. So this is the 12th of the 12th of 98. So it says we're thinking a lot of 1999. You wonder what will happen, whether this will happen or that will happen, whether it will happen or not happen. You think about these things. You think about this a great deal, that perhaps it may not happen. Sometimes you think it will happen, and at other times you think it will not happen. You constantly sing this song of will it happen or not? However, very few of you think about moving forward at a fast speed and reaching your angelic form or your complete and perfect form. So you get so caught up in the question of what is to come. And I think that was with the Y2K where there was a concern of what may happen. What will happen? You sing the song of will it happen or not a great deal. Baba says, whatever happens, is your aim to listen and see everything? Or is it to become an angel like Father Brahma? So Baba is saying, whatever happens, he's asking, is it your aim to listen and see everything? Or is it to become an angel like Father Brahma? Have you made preparations for this? Even if the elements do show their color and form from time to time, are you children the ones who have an abhyakt form and are equal to the Father, prepared to watch every scene of the element? Baba is asking, are you children the ones who have an abhyakt form and are equal to the Father? Are we prepared to watch every scene of the elements? Have you become angels who are free from any effect of the upheaval of the elements? Are you busy in making your stage ready? Or are you busy in thinking about what is going to happen? No matter what adverse situation appears in front of you, will you masters of the elements be set in your stage of being the masters? Or will you become upset and wonder what happened? Will you busy yourselves in the news of the scenes of this happened and that happened? Or will you remain stable in your stage of perfection and experience any adverse situation to be like a passing cloud? You know, and we have so much that is happening now in the news Baba talks about, you know, that can pull us. So Baba is saying, therefore, children, Brahma Baba is asking you, have you become angels like me for all time? All of you children have to become abhyakt whilst living in the corporeal form. You would say, Baba has become abhyakt and asks to be made abhyakt like him. Brahma Baba says, first of all, ask yourself whether you have fulfilled the responsibility of the crown that Baba has placed on your head. So what is that responsibility? That is the responsibility of world benefit. So, you know, some of us become Brahmin, and have we really understood the responsibility of a Brahmin? Yes, we go into golden age. We do service to the mind, but it's really, the service is really bringing this benefit to the world. Have you world benefactors completed your task of world benefit? Brahma Baba became abhyakt because he had to give you children the task of world benefit. So just like Brahma Baba brought so much benefit, the children also, to create their stage, needed to also do likewise, to bring world benefit. He had to become free from all bondage and become an instrument to accelerate the speed of service. And we saw, as soon as Brahma Baba became abhyakt, service expanded, you know, abroad. You can see the practical form of this everywhere, right? So he became world benefit. He had to become free and from all bondages and become an instrument to accelerate the speed of service. You can see the practical form of this everywhere, both in this land and abroad. The speed of service has been accelerated by Abhya Brahma, and it will continue to accelerate. Brahma Baba had to become the instrument to accelerate the speed of service. However, it is not Brahma Baba alone who will claim the right to the kingdom. All of you children also have the right to claim the kingdom with him. This is why you children in the corporeal form have been made instruments in the corporeal world. However, at the end, all of you children in the corporeal form will also have to become Avya angel. Therefore, you must increase the speed of service of world benefit and become perfect yourself and bring about completion. And that's the key. When our stage becomes elevated and complete, that's where completion comes. So then it's not a measure of always saying time and time, as we said last time, you know, not look at time, but look at the self becoming perfect. Father Brahma asks you, should we have the completion in the year 1999? All the elements are ready and waiting for you to clap our hands and signal them. Have you become a double light as angels? Are at least 108 of you constantly victorious? Have you passed in not having any type of wasteful thoughts? Have you, give me 1 second. Hold on, sorry about that. Gita, are reading Murli. Yeah, sorry about that. So Baba saying, have you become as double light as angels? Are at least 108 of you constantly victorious? Have you passed in not having any type of wasteful or negative thoughts? Words, acts, when in connection and relation with everyone, the burden of anything wasteful or negative stops you from becoming angels for all time. So Brahma Baba is asking you, have you become angels who are relieved of this burden? Have you underlined the word constantly? When at least 108 souls constantly experience an angelic life, can it be said that they have become equal to Father Brahma? So I want to read that again. So the burden of anything wasteful or negative stops you from becoming angels for all time. So Brahma Baba is asking you, have you become angels who are relieved of this burden? Have you underlined the word constantly? When at least 108 souls constantly experience an angelic life, can it be said that they have become equal to Father Brahma? So Baba is asking you, should we clap our hands now or should we clap our hands in the year 2000 or the year 2001? When should we clap? What are you thinking about? That you will become this when Baba has clapped? It is like this. What are you thinking about? Will you become this when Baba claps? What will happen? Should Baba clap? Baba says, speak. Are you ready? Should you be given a test paper? Baba is not going to accept everything just like that. Should Baba test you? And then he asks, says, teachers, speak. Should Baba give you a test paper? you will have to renounce everything. Those who are in Madhuban will have to leave Madhuban. Those who are in Gan Sarovar will have to leave Gan Sarovar. Those who are in centers will have to leave their centers, and those who are abroad will have to leave those countries. You will have to leave everything. So, are you ever ready? If you are ever ready, then clap your hands. Baba is telling us what is to come. Ever ready means ever ready in everything, just to leave everything. Nothing should pull us. So Baba is saying, so if you are ever ready, then clap your hands. Are you ever ready? Or should Baba test you? Should Baba announce this tomorrow? It isn't that you will renounce everything after you have returned home, is it? It shouldn't be that you say that you will put everything in order first. No, you will have to remain wherever you are. Are you ever ready? You won't have your workplace, nor your bed, your room, not even your cupboard. Don't say that you need a little work. You need to have a little work that you first have to finish in 2 days and then come back. No. An order is an order. But asking again, are you ready? Speak. Consider this before replying. So it's to check yourself. Otherwise, Baba will issue an order tomorrow about where you should go and where you should not go. Should Baba issue this order? Are you ready? You are not saying yes. So Baba's making the children think. It's been asking it over and over. You are not saying yes with much courage, are you? Are you still thinking that it would be good if you were given another day? Perhaps this will happen without me. This will not happen without me. You must not have this waste thought. Everything will carry on fine. When Brahma Baba was transferred, did he think about what was going to happen without it? So Brahma Baba was always ever ready. Did he think whether everything would carry on or not? Did he think that he should give one direction? Did he give it? Did he give any directions? He gave a direction through his perfect stage, not through his words. Become ever ready to such an extent that as soon as you receive the order, you are able to let go. Should Baba do this now? Should this upheaval be created now? Yes, this is going to happen. Baba is telling you what you have to do. You will not be asked anything, but you will just be given an order. So no advance warning. A date will not be fixed. Suddenly, the order will be given to you that you have to come. This is known as being a double light angel. As soon as you receive an order, you fly. When you receive the order of death, will you think about anything? Will you think about your center, your cupboard, your students, or your area? Nowadays, there is a lot of disturbance about my area. Does a world benefactor have a limited area? You will have to renounce all of that. All of that is also arrogance of the body. To have awareness of the body is still not as serious as having arrogance of the body. So to have awareness of the body is still not as serious as having arrogance of the body, which is very subtle. To have the consciousness of mind is called arrogance of the body. When you have the consciousness of mind, there will definitely be arrogance. It may be of your speciality, that this is my speciality, my virtues, my service. Remember that when you have the consciousness of mind, all of it is Prabhu Prasad, something offered to God and received by you. Baba uses us, so that's where we become instrument. Baba would have used us with whatever we have. So it's not ours, but Baba's. It is not yours. To consider prasad to be your own is body consciousness. To renounce this arrogance means to become complete. This is why it is said, an angel is one who has no arrogance of the body, no awareness of the body, no any different types of consciousness of mind. To be an angel means that you have ended all limited relationships. So what preparation are you now going to make? Listen to Brahma Baba's sound with attention. He is invoking you. And Baba says, it is very easy to beat the drums of completion. He can beat them whenever he wants, but at least 900,000 people should be prepared for the beginning of the golden age, even though they will be number-wise. After all, very few can be number one. There should be at least 108 who are number one. This is pretty new for me, this sentence. There should at least be 108 who are number one, 16,000 who are number two, and 900,000 who are number three. At least this many should be prepared. This is in 1998, remember? The kingdom has to be prepared. In the result, Bab Dada saw that at present, Maya exists in the majority of you in the form of negative or wasteful thinking. The stage of you world benefactors should be of constantly having an unlimited attitude, drishti, and an unlimited stage. There should not be the slightest negative or wasteful feeling in your attitude towards any soul. There should not be the slightest negative or wasteful feelings in your attitude towards any soul. To transform something negative is something different. However, those who themselves have a negative attitude cannot help others to transform their negativity into positivity. This is why each one of you should examine yourself in a subtle way and see that your drishti and attitude towards others are always benevolent in an unlimited way. You should only have benevolent feelings. There should not be any limited feelings, limited thoughts, or words within yourself in a subtle way. Anything that is merged within you in a subtle way will emerge and become physical at a particular time or when a problem arises. So it will act like a trigger. You might now constantly remain okay, but it will emerge at a particular time. Then you would think, this one is like this anyway. This situation is like this. This person is like this. That person may well be like that, but is your stage filled with pure and unlimited feelings? Examine your own mistake. Baba says, do you understand? Don't look at the situations, look at yourself. That's all. In the year 1999, you must be concerned that your steps are placed in Brahma Baba's footsteps. All of you love Father Brahma, do you not? So you always follow the one you love. You have to become equal to the Father. Is this all right? Will all of you be ready in 1999? You still have 1 year. Don't think this happened or that happened. All of that will happen. You have been told in advance that it will happen, but you also have to become an angel like the Father. Do you understand? You have to become this, do you not? Are you able to do this? Will you be ready in 1 year or will you be ready in half a year? Brahma Baba is also invoking you for you to become perfect. Nature is also waiting for you. Become ever ready in 6 months. I don't know if that was an order. Baba says, become ever ready in 6 months. If not 6 months, you still have a year. Do not fluctuate, remain unshakable. However, never let go of your aim. No matter what happens, you have to become equal to the Father. If even a Brahmin tries to shake you or puts some obstacles in your way, you still have to become equal to the Father. Do you like this advice? Baba made everyone in the gathering raise their hands and that everyone's photograph was taken. Baba will send everyone this photograph. Here, in this movies, someone can be missed out, but no one can be missed out in the movie of the subtle vision. No, Baba sees everything, he knows everything. What can take us away or what pulls our interest. So Baba asks, can each of you become bodiless in a second? So he's doing a drill. Now become stable in the bodiless stage in 1 second. Baba conducted the drill. You may now return to your body, now become bodiless again throughout the whole day. Even if only for a second, continue to have this practice. Gotcha. So can we just stay 1 minute and become bodiless? Gotcha. So to all you most elevated Brahmin souls, to those who constantly place their feet in the footstep of Father Brahma, to the obedient children who follow the Father, to those who constantly remain stable in the angelic stage like Father Brahma, to the close and unshakable souls who become the masters of the elements and who observe every scene of nature as a detached observer, to the unshakable and immovable souls, to those who constantly have an unlimited attitude and drishti, to the fortunate children who have Dada's love, remembrance, and namaste. And special love and remembrance to all of those in this land and abroad who are listening to this. Sure. So there are meetings with the daddies. So I think we can stop here. And it's a good Murli, really, the souls to be able to get. You know, it's 12 to be 1298. I think I myself will go back through this, you know.
Thanks,
Sure.
Stuart. Reflection.
You know, Baba, in this Murli is so much. I saw Baba's actually pleading with the children to become perfect. And reiterating over and over again about becoming ever ready. We don't know when it's time. But completion is really dependent upon us. And that Brahma Baba became Avya, but he also, drama has given us the opportunity to create our fortune for golden age by becoming Avyak as well, and becoming this world benefactor, because Papa speaks about the responsibility of a Brahmin. Because sometimes we become Brahmin and we may believe it's such a not fairy tale, but you know, it is all fortune of golden age and all that, and that's the reward. But the need of the hour as a Brahmin is what is the responsibility, and have we really understood our responsibility? I've often said, you know, do not estimate the power of a Brahmin, whether it's the thoughts, the words, the action, and whether it's positive or negative, it creates such an impact in the environment, whether it's the human beings, whether it's whatever it is. And the responsibility of becoming a world benefactor, bringing every soul to really know who Baba is, to serve them, bring that benefit, that one benefit of knowing God. Not necessarily having to become a Brahmin, because it's not everyone's path to do that service. And Baba, I feel in this Murli was testing the children a lot with the 1999 and the Y2K 2000. And I feel always he really gives these tests, maybe as motivation to speed up efforts. Suddenly everything will happen. We don't know. Baba talks again about the elements, and we are seeing it more and more, how it's becoming more and more fierce. So it is really becoming ever ready by having a constant awareness of who I am, who is God, and my responsibility. So that in itself, when that awareness will allow me to conduct myself in a particular way, you know, and that way whoever sees you, that sometimes you don't have to have words. People sometimes sees you and starts asking, you know, when you have this awareness, I am a Brahmin, you know, they tend to ask you questions. Because within recently last week, and I had some things to do here in the house, I had to go to a business place, and well, the girl was see badge. I don't ever go anywhere without my badge. And she started asking questions, and you know, you could see her father had recently passed, so I think she was concerned about that. And I think she was taken aback, but she was able to recognize the truth in it, and God is not omnipresent, you know. When to get another dog, so I tell her she must go at the center, you know. But people, you realize, are thirsty for knowledge because they're confused and they're not aware. So Baba is telling us, so our stage of completion is what will bring all that benefit. Completion is a total benefit, total being that world benefactor. So it's that awareness, constant awareness.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I think what became clear for me in this Murli is that to be an angel means to be double light. And Baba wants us to focus on this aim and objective. Sometimes what happens is we talk to Baba about everything else other than the thing Baba wants to talk about. So our day-to-day conversations are about this and that. Our news is about this and that. But Baba wants to actually know, how much are we becoming an angel? How much are we becoming double light? This is the sort of thing that Baba is focusing us on. And I thought it was also very clear that this concept of double light refers to being ever ready in a practical way and also in an internal way. So whether you're running a center, whether you're running your household, whether you're working or running your business, there is a implied signal here in today's Murli that we should organize ourselves so that we're ready to go any day. Because, of course, any day could be our last day. And we don't want to organize our lives so that we got a lot left over. And then that's pulling us. So he's saying that, do you need 2 more days? And do you need, and almost saying that, okay, you've got 6 months. That was my interpretation of that. But get your life in order. Get your circumstances in order. Because for Brahma Baba, he just had to go. It wasn't a case of, well, there's always more to do, right? There's always more to organize. There's always more to be sorted out. But can we simplify things and be ready to go? Because we might not get notice. Then it's the internal readiness. And hearing this morally reminded me a lot of a few things that Devi Janaki used to talk about quite frequently. Devi Janaki used to say that all of the efforts of Raj Yoga are to do with 2 things on a subtle level: your feelings and your motives. And she said that you drill down and it's this. So Baba's saying here as well, there shouldn't be any negativity or wastefulness in your feelings towards anyone, because all you're doing is burdening yourself. There's nothing else you will achieve here through that. But if your aim is to become an angel, then you really put yourself back. And then secondly, better saying that, so in Hindi, there's these 2 words which we can use interchangeably, and I think both words will be usually translated in the Murli as body consciousness. The first is Bhan, which literally means the consciousness of the body. And Baba was saying the second is Abhiman. So both are usually translated as body consciousness, but the word Abhiman means arrogance. So Baba is specifying that one is where you just got the awareness of the body. So that's Bhan. That's consciousness of the body. But the other is where you've identified with something and you've got the consciousness of mind. And what that is explaining is that all ego is like a construct of mind. So first is the mind, and then there's the I. So all I is basically constructed of multiple minds. And the moment that you identify with something, so in this case, at that time, I don't know if it's still the case, but he was commenting the center sisters. I think probably more so in India, but could also be other places. They were becoming territorial in their mindset. And I don't know India that well, but I've heard from BKs there that, like, say in a place like Mumbai, there are many centers. And each center has a 3-mile radius where they can do service. And if you live in that 3-mile radius, you've got to go to that center. You're not allowed to go to another center. And also the other center is not allowed to do service in your 3-9. So this is how it's actually structured. So you can see how that can then be internalized, kind of. This is my area. And by the same, no, just because something is organized that way, don't internalize that. And we can see how that would happen in our own families, it would happen in our jobs, it would happen in, it's very easy to become territorial. And it's because we've identified with our roles, we've identified with the limitations, and then that always creates an I. And what that is saying is that's putting you back as well, because an angel doesn't have that. An angel is unlimited. And so you're going to have to become angels while in the body. So you've got the crown of world benefits. So you can't stop playing these roles. But it shouldn't be that the service you're doing or the roles you're playing are actually putting you back in your aim of becoming the double light angel. They should be helping you get it, not the other way around. So Brother is giving us these two things. So that's the motive, which you see, if we are unfulfilled inside, then we will look to fulfill ourselves through the roles we play. So there's a motive there of taking. This is why it's not quite pure. Yesterday, Vedanta Ben was sharing quite candidly that during COVID, some brothers and sisters in Rwanda, they had bought a plot of land. And she said, when she heard about this, she went and spoke with them with ego that, look, I'm in charge here. And this should really be done through me. And she said, she had to also adjust herself. But this was done, they've got a good motive. Actually, we've got to work together. So it's very, very subtle, like sometimes even without us realizing, we've identified with the right. And Baba is saying that, remember, your aim is to carry nothing, to be double light. And so you're going to have to check your motives and you're going to have to check your feelings. So Baby Jenki said that she's made that effort and that checking over such a long period of time, just keeping these very, very pure. And that's what gets us there. So I appreciate you presenting this Murli to us today. Does anyone here have any final comments or questions before we start today? Okay, so we had a good rich session. Ambika Ben, you missed the first time, most of the first time. That was on really learning from devotees as well. So how do we balance learning from devotees while also keeping Bada's knowledge in our mind while we do that? And then the second half, how do we become a double light angel? So a good session today. Next week is the opening of the Global Retreat Center. So we'll send out links of that. I'm sure we'll tune in there. And so hopefully see you all again in a couple of weeks. So Om Shanti, everyone.
Om Shanti, thank you, brother. And I hope Sister feels really well for the next week. Have a wonderful week. Thank you.
Tell Ranjan Ben Om Shanti first.
Yes, I'll convey that.
Yeah,
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Thank you. Om Shanti.